Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times. Today we are here to finally talk about A Quiet Place 2.
It's coffee time.
So I still do not have any natural light and I have been now wearing my aligners for around a week, so I feel a lot more comfortable with them, but we shall see when I have to put the new one in tomorrow. But so far so good. And anyways, you guys, the reason why you're all here is to hear my thoughts on the movie A Quiet Place 2. This was a really expected movie release that was supposed to come out, I believe it was April 2020, so we've been waiting for so long. And I gotta tell you that of course I'm gonna be mentioning perhaps a couple of things here and there about the first movie. So even though this video does not contain spoilers for part 2, it might contain spoilers from the first movie. I do not expect anybody that has not seen the first one to be watching this review, but you never know, so I'm just putting it out there. If you're new here, I try to upload always 2 videos a week with movie reviews and movie recommendations, so please consider subscribing if you love horror in general and movies, and also hit the notification bell before you leave. A Quiet Place 2 is an American horror movie and a direct sequel to A Quiet Place from 2018, and also directed by John Krasinski. At the beginning, actually, as Krasinski revealed in one interview, he was not supposed to direct part 2. He didn't want to, but he wanted still to create the concept, the plot, the idea for the second movie. So once he had, this concept for part 2 and he went to pitch the idea, he realized that he had to direct this movie, and we are all very thankful that he decided to keep this movie to direct it himself. We are following the family from the first movie, and they continue to navigate and survive a post-apocalyptic world inhabited by blind aliens with an acute sense of hearing. The film was written, produced, and directed by John Krasinski for Paramount Pictures. Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, and Noah Jupe reprised their roles from the first film, while Cillian Murphy and Jimon Honsu joined the cast. This movie actually starts on day 1, which is considered the invasion day. So we are getting to see a little bit of how this all started, how this world came to be. The Abbott family is at a baseball game from one of their sons, and suddenly there is these things coming down from the sky, these kind of balls of fire, and everybody starts to run away for their lives, for real. And that is how this movie starts, with a lot of action-packed scenes and really cool moments, and we still get to see here a little bit of John Krasinski before the camera. After this amazing introduction to the story and telling us a little bit of what we didn't see in part 1, which is how it all kind of started, we are now in day 474 after humanity has been nearly completely wiped out from the face of the earth, and we follow the character of Emily Blunt as she is kind of looking for a new place to stay after the events of the first movie. We know that towards the end of part 1, Lee Abbott sacrificed himself to save his family, so we lost John Krasinski there, and honestly that was a really unexpected death that I think nobody really saw coming until of course you knew that he was going to do that. And it was one of the best parts as well of the first movie, that it was really new, fresh, and unexpected. And now we follow Emily Blunt as a mother that is trying to protect her children and is looking for a safe place to stay after the kind of place that they had built from themselves is destroyed at the end of part 1. Even though this movie is missing a little bit of that originality, that kind of impact that the first movie had, I have to admit that this probably is one of the best sequels I have seen done when it comes to the execution. And making a sequel of a movie that was so extremely successful was probably not easy, and I feel like maybe part because of that pressure is why John didn't want to direct the second one, but I'm so glad that he did, because he did an amazing job. The movie is skillfully directed. The visuals are stunning. There are many parts in the movie where you're getting like stills, like frames in the movie, that they just look like this perfect picture. In the movie we have a masterful use of noise and sound, and they are expanding it even more than in the first movie, because kind of the main characters of this movie are going to be Regan and Emmett, played by Cillian Murphy, and you're going to be able to see something that has never been done before in movies, which is you're going to be able to hear and see exactly as Regan would, as somebody that is deaf. And it was just so amazing to be able to experience the world as she would. So those moments were really interesting. The only thing is, if you're gonna watch this movie in the cinema, don't bring snacks that are really loud, because most of this movie is really silent, obviously. And I remember when I was watching the movie, I had to be really careful with my snacks not to ruin the tension for anybody. In this second movie, we are expanding the world, the universe. We are getting to know more locations. We are introduced to new characters, and in general we're given kind of a better understanding a little bit of how the creatures came to Earth. We see that in that first scene in the movie, and we also get other questions answered, as is there any other survivors out there. Even though we do expand the world and we see many other new locations in this movie, it doesn't take away that atmosphere that we had in the first movie, and it still does a really good job at keeping the tension. Like, I was super engaged the whole movie. I was watching really closely every second, every minute, and I think that's part of why I really enjoyed these two movies, is because they are really mesmerizing. I really appreciated that they brought in new characters. I think it was necessary for the sequel, and we're going to see our characters that are being confronted with new challenges, with new ways of fighting back. And I also enjoy that. Of course, some things are going to be similar to the things you've seen in the first movie, but we still get to see a lot of new things, and that is something that I was really happy to see. We still get also a lot of tension, a lot of family drama, but there are some things that are innovative in the second part, and it's something you don't always see done in sequels. John Krasinski kind of uses the same formula that he had in the first movie. We have, you know, a family focused story with a lot of family dynamic and interactions, but we also get to see a couple of new things, like I've mentioned, and I think that was super important for a sequel, as well as introducing new characters into that dynamic. But of course, when you go bigger, sometimes you lose certain things that you had before, because the first movie was really minimalistic. That's how it felt. We were really trapped with this family. It was really intimate. We were really following this family closely, and of course, expanding to new locations and more characters kind of lost a little bit of that minimalism that worked so well in the first movie. But this sequel, it was like the right call. It was the right direction to go with the movie. So all in all, I was really pleased with that decision. Something that I have noticed by reading a lot of post-apocalyptic books and watching a lot of post-apocalyptic movies is that mostly the focus is on the adults, on married couples. Maybe there are some kids thrown into the mix, but we are mostly really following adults as they adapt to this new world order, to this new reality that they have. However, I always ask myself, how would the children and the kids born already in this post-apocalyptic world, how would they live? What kind of senses would they develop? How would they fight back? Because there is a big difference if you already are confronted with this new reality as an adult, or if you were born into it or were raised during it. So I like that this movie is shifting a little bit that focus from the mom to the kids, and we are seeing the kids as they grow up, as they are getting more brave, as they are using the tools and the intelligence, everything that they have been collecting during these 474 days, and are using it to fight back, and they are not scared children anymore. Simmons, that plays Regan, she did such an amazing, wonderful job in this movie, and she's only 18. I think she's really one to watch. But my favorite of this movie was Emmett, played by Cillian Murphy, not just because I absolutely love this, in my opinion, underrated actor, but because his character arc and the way that he evolves through the movie is something that I absolutely love to see. I loved him as a character so much, so he was definitely my favorite from part 2. However, there's a couple of things of this movie that I could criticize, one of them being that sometimes characters make dumb decisions or things that might not be 100% logical happen, but these are minor things that don't really bother you with this movie. But if I had to criticize something, might be that, as well as something else that for me, something that I'm curious about, and that is actually the creatures. We always see them when they have to confront them, but we haven't learned that much more from the creatures than what we already knew from the first movie. Yes, we do see in the first scene that they are apparently coming down from the skies in these fireballs, but where do they really come from? What's the purpose? Learning a little bit more about the way that they communicate between each other, their, I don't know, the way of living. Like, we don't really know much about these creatures, which it might be because they want to keep the mystery going, or because we are going to be able to see more in perhaps part 3. So they're really slowly revealing little details here and there about the creatures, but not too much. And I kind of want to know more. But that's just like my personal, not really criticism, it's just something that I would like to see a little bit more. At the end of the day, I gave this movie the same that I gave to part 1, which is 4.5 out of 5, so nearly perfect for me, even though if I had to choose, I would still pick part 1 over 2. However, in this second movie, we are offered a little bit more of the world, more locations, new characters, but we're still getting that tension. I love the pacing, which is similar to the first movie, but we do get a lot more action in part 2. I love that we were still surprised about certain things that happened. We still got to experience some twists and turns. Some of them I didn't really see happening, and others you could tell they were coming. But I really enjoyed this movie overall. I think it's probably one of the best so far that I have watched, 2021 releases. Definitely stronger than Conjuring 3, sadly, because I really wanted to love Conjuring 3 more. But this was just so good. So just let me know down below, you guys. If you watched already part 2, did you love it more or less than part 1? Are you excited for a possible part 3? Let's talk about A Quiet Place in the comments down below. I hope that you enjoyed my spoiler-free review. As always, you guys, thanks so much for watching. Please give the video a big thumbs up to support the channel. Also, sharing is caring, so please share the video on your social media if you can. And I hope to see you guys, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!